Everybody mistakes your weirdness for coolness.
Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Natalie Megan. This is Weirdo Book Club. Today I have ventured out of my usual musings here on this channel, and I decided to try something a little different, a little country. Today we're going to be discussing Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. Yeah, I read a contemporary Western romance novel, guys. Who is she becoming? No one. This was not a thing I enjoyed thoroughly. I find it to be... We'll get into it. But first, I wanted to tell you a little bit about our sponsor today, Parade. I even changed clothes so that I could talk about it. Parade is a size-inclusive, women-owned, sustainable intimates brand that has everything you need, from bras and bralettes to lingerie and even pajamas. So for this video, I selected a bunch of stuff from That Lace collection. It's a new lace collection on Parade. I'm sure you could have guessed that. Including things like this bodysuit that I'm wearing under these little overalls. This is the That Lace long sleeve bodysuit in Blushing Rose. I also got a set. I got That Lace long line bralette in the color 8 ball, and I got the matching cheeky That Lace underwear in the color 8 ball as well. I love the little rosette details. I love the see-through quality and the fact that even though it's sexy and see-through, it's still comfortable. Use my code WEIRDO30 at checkout to get 30% off your entire purchase, excluding sale items, and grab yourself something that's as cute as you are. Thanks again to Parade for sponsoring this video, and speaking of cute things, I guess it's time for us to go back into the Western romance I've selected for us to talk about today. See you there. So Done and Dusted by Lila Sage is a 356-page contemporary Western romance that I admittedly fell prey to because of its awesome cover art. As a longtime fan of both illustration and the 1980s bodice ripper style of covers, Done and Dusted jumped right out at me. I was walking through a bookstore like maybe a year ago, maybe even longer than that, and I saw this cover and I liked it so much that it prompted me to take a little snapshot of it so I wouldn't forget what the book was. That photo can be seen here. This book had me so curious that I bounded gleefully into a romance subgenre that I never read. Western. Yeehaw indeed. I don't read Westerns. There's really nothing wrong with them, of course. They're just not something that I gravitate towards. That's okay. I grew up in rural Tennessee, out in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by neighbors who had cows, and then another neighbor who owned a meat processing plant for all the local hunters to bring their deers to and have them made into food, which, you know, power to you, love it. Happy that we have people like y'all to do the things that I cannot do. I mean, I could maybe do it if push comes to shove, like an apocalypse comes down and I have to make some decisions and some really tough moves, but I don't want to, and I'm thankful that y'all exist to do this for me. So, you know, shirtless men riding horses and or tractors with southern drawls as thick as molasses don't really do it for me, especially in romance. It's just too familiar, you know? The closest examples of me enjoying Westerns over the last 30 years of my existence are threefold. 1, How the West Was Fun. 2, Shanghai Nights. And 3, Brokeback Mountain. I did try to watch a Clint Eastwood movie once. And after a lady accidentally bumps into our main character, Clint Eastwood, in the street, so he decides to take her roughly and against her will in the barn to teach her some manners. I noped right out of there. However, this cover is so good. I love it. I felt like I just had to try it, right? So I did. Let's go. Okay, so before we get started, I want to give you the disclaimers that I always give. This review will contain spoilers, opinions, and general shit talking. It's not for the author, friends of the author, fans of the author that don't know how to accept a differing of opinions from a stranger on the internet. So if none of that sounds appealing to you, go ahead and scoot. I will warn you once the spoilers start, because this is going to be one of my mini reviews. I didn't annotate this book to hell and back. I don't have a full 20,000 word script the way I do with other things. It's a contemporary Western romance, you know, and to be fair, I didn't hate this book. So there's not a lot to go over, but there are some things. So I'm going to do this in the style of my mini reviews. If you are a member of the channel or on my bindery, you've probably seen a mini review before. So I'm going to explain it in the same way that I usually do on my other rant reviews, go over the synopsis, stuff like that. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of my overall feelings on the book without spoiling it. And then I'm going to go into spoilers. And I will warn you before that happens so that you don't hear anything you don't want to hear. So giddy up. Oh God, sorry. So anyway, here's the synopsis. I didn't read it before I put my boots on and jumped in, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. She's off limits, but he's never been good at following the rules. For the first time in her life, Clementine Emmy Ryder has no idea what she's doing. She's accomplished everything on her to-do list. She left her small town of Meadowlark, Wyoming. Check. Went to college. Check. Made a career for herself doing her favorite thing, riding horses. Check. But after an accident makes it impossible for her to get back into the saddle, she has no choice but to return to the hometown she always wanted to escape. As someone who left her small town to live in the big city and go to college, I felt like I connected with this. Luke Brooks is Meadowlark's most notorious bad boy, bar owner, and bachelor. He's also the unofficial fifth member of the Ryder family. As Emmy's older brother's best friend, Luke spent most of his childhood antagonizing her. It's been years since he's seen her, but when she walks into his bar and back into his life, he can't take his eyes off her. Despite his better judgment, he wants to do a whole lot more than just look at her. Emmy's got too much on her mind to think about romance, and Luke knows he should stay away from his best friend's younger sister, but what if Luke is just what Emmy needs to get her spark back? Or will they both go up in flames? Pretty standard little setup here. Small town girl with dreams of getting out. Does. But some sort of tragedy draws her back, and waiting on her is the boy she once knew, who is now a man. A really hot man who is ready to take her roughly in some sort of barn, I'd guess. Or in the office of his bar, the Devil's Boot. Tale as old as time. So I enjoyed this on audiobook, and in total, I think it was about 7 hours of playtime. Closer to 3 if you listen on 3 times the speed, but what maniac would do that? The audiobook has 2 narrators who were pretty decent, and the story is told in dual POVs, one belonging to our female main character, Clementine Emmy Ryder, and the second belonging to Luke Brooks. So that's the setup, and kind of a rundown over some of the stuff that's going on. I've already told you the main setup, my kind of feelings about it. It was fine. I gave it 3 stars. It's not really for me. I don't see me purchasing a pair of boots in the future and maybe looking into getting some riding lessons, looking for my own cowboy, but it was readable, and I think it might be worth a shot. So if you're looking to venture out and try something new this year, maybe give this one a shot. Maybe don't. I don't know. I can't tell you what to do. I don't know you. So here we go into the spoiler section. You've been warned. So the whole deal here is that while Emmy was off living large, she was sadly thrown from her horse and hasn't been able to ride since, PTSD and all. And I will say that on top of the PTSD rep in this book, Emmy also struggles with ADHD. And the author noted that in the forward or the note at the beginning of the book about how she wanted to portray this, because I think she said she struggles with it. I'll have to double check, and if that's wrong, I'll take this out. I also have ADHD and PTSD that I've had since I was like 7 or whatever, and things just kept piling on top of it, so who knows when it really started. But with all that in mind, I didn't really mind the rep in here. I felt like it was a little idealized, like some of the PTSD symptoms that she struggles with are very easily dealt with because she starts getting close to this man who just sits with her in it and talks her through it, which can be helpful, yes. But it all went really fast, and I just don't think that's how it works. Actually, I know that's not, for me, I know that's not how it works. It's not some hot guy that I've known my whole life sees that I'm a little anxious in a crowded setting and he comes over to talk me through it. I mean, that will temporarily ease some of the symptoms I'm feeling, but it's not a fix-all. And so it just felt very like one-dimensional, and that's fine. You don't want to get too far into it. I don't really want you to get too far into it. This is a Western romance. But I did appreciate that it was moderately well depicted. The ADHD, on the other hand, is very like whispered through the plot. Like every now and then she'll mention that she struggles to focus or something like that. And then in the epilogue, he talks about having some of her pills for her ADHD at his house so that she doesn't skip or forget to take them or have to remember to bring them when she's spending the night over there. You know, it's sprinkled in, but it's not really something that is I don't know. None of the problems that exist in this book are really big at all. They just kind of show up, they talk about them for a minute, and then they're gone. But again, this was only like, what, 350 pages is kind of long, though. They could have, Whatever. It wasn't that deep, and sometimes it's not. As my son would tell me, it's not that deep. So anyway, she was thrown from the horse. She has a lot of PTSD, and she hasn't been able to ride since. She comes back to town and wanders into the local bar, the Devil's Boot, with her best friend, Teddy, who is fun, I guess. And as she's sipping whatever beverage she's ordered, she hears the song, "Oh, My Darling Clementine," and she knows that someone's messing with her. But since most of her family doesn't know she's back yet, and they're probably working, that can only leave one person that could be doing this: Luke Brooks. And she's right. She looks over, she sees him, her childhood crush comes flooding back to the foreground when she sees how much of a man he's become. Turns out, Luke now owns this bar. Can you believe it? This ladies' man ragamuffin is running his own bar. Crazy. Anyway, they chat, whatever. They kind of have like I don't know. And then we fast forward a little bit. Amy is at the stables waiting for her horse, her beloved horse, Maple, to be delivered. So she's there and she's getting Maple all set up. But who else should be at the stables? Why, Luke, of course. He apparently not only runs his bar, the Devil's Boot, but he teaches children riding lessons every now and then, too. Oh, what a guy! And how oddly out of character and yet endearing for this ragtag hottie of the town. And so her childhood crush is now running parallel to the feeling she's developing for him. Like, oh, he grew up. He turned into some stud cool guy that does cool things for people. Maybe he's not just my older brother's best friend who bothered me throughout my childhood and picked on me and stuff. Maybe there's more. There is. We wouldn't be here if there wasn't. So this leads up to a sweet bonding moment where Luke notices that she's really anxious at the thought of riding a horse, and so he sits with her and talks her through it and helps her get the courage and strength to literally and metaphorically get back on that horse. And she does. This is what I'm talking about. Like, I'm obviously summing it up, but to be able to sum it up that quickly, it went really fast. She was having a panic attack. He talked her through it. She got on the horse. And like, good for you. I'm thrilled if that's all it took. But like, why didn't you have any friends that could have done something similar? You've been living there since college. You're now 27, right? So that's a lot. That's almost 10 years. You didn't have any friends up there when you were racing that could have been like, hey, you seem a little nervous. I mean, even Adeline had, what's her name? Daya? What do you mean a man broke into your house? Take a couple shots, Addie. I'll be right over. Like, even she had a friend. Not a great one, but a friend. It's just a little weird to me. But whatever, it works. Hooray. Happy for ya. And after that, they kind of start fooling around. Not right away, of course. You know, he takes her to some waterfall special spot that he's never taken anyone else to. They mess around there in the water. And, you know, I felt this way when I read Flock, and I feel this way anytime a waterfall scene kind of shows up, because there are, I know that it's not still water, but it is still like lake water or pond water or open water with like a whole ecosystem in it. And I just don't think we should be messing around and having our bits all up in there. I have swum in the local watering hole, aka the pond that was near my house, as a child. But I also went into the pond once with a mosquito bite that was pretty fresh, and the next week I had to go to the hospital and get antibiotics because it had become infected and a red streak started to veer off from it. So, you know, I don't really want to bang in a lake water. Anyway, they do mess around in it. They are not like me. They do not have my same reservations. And like I said, all of this starts to really go fast. Like, it happens really, really fast. And I get it. They've already known each other forever, so there's no reason to waste time like getting to know each other or establishing a connection based on who they are now and something more than memories. Fine. But this also added to the overall story just feeling pretty flat for me. And then the spice started and things got worse for me as I was wandering through this. So they fooled around the waterfall, we know that. And then back at dinner with her fam, which her fam is practically his fam, you know, all that. He walks her back to her cabin after the dinner is over, and they bang all night. She lets us know, and him, that she has an IUD, and so she's like, raw, next question. He's thrilled. The sex, according to her, is mind-blowing, I've never had sex like this before, sex. And, again, once more, great for you. I'm happy for you. However, all he did was grind on you and allow you to grind on him, eat you like a cobbler, and bang you the usual way. Like, she did get 5 O's out of it, so once again, I say good for you. If you like it, I love it. But this wasn't a reinventing the wheel night under the stars or something. Like, they just have chemistry and obvious sexual tension between them, and she's into it really hard, and that contributes to your overall enjoyment of sexual escapades. And you're 27. Once again, like, I understand, because I do remember the first time I was like, I didn't have to, how'd you, wow, you're good at that. But I was 20, not 27. Maybe I'm just in a bad mood. Who knows? But anyway, again, she likes it. I love it. Good for you, girly. They almost get caught out the following morning when her brother Gus shows up, knocks on the door, and is like, I need your help with something. Thankfully, she tells Luke to hide, and shoo, they made it out of there. However, she didn't realize that she was wearing his shirt, Luke's shirt. So she almost blew the whole thing, but thankfully her brother's a little not good at picking up on sublims, so shoo, they made it out alive. After that, it's her best friend Teddy's birthday. And I gotta say, Teddy's pretty cool. I don't know where she's been for the last decade, but she seems like a pretty decent friend to our girl Emmy. They're getting all dressed up to head out for a night on the town to celebrate her birthday, and she's so excited about all of this that she even makes Emmy a special red dress to wear to the bar tonight. She is also pretty firmly for her and Luke hooking up. Like, she's a cheerleader friend, and we love that. We love a supportive friend. Now, when they go to the bar, Luke is bricked up upon seeing Emmy in the red dress, and later that night, he also sees a man who is not him touching Emmy, and Emmy moves his hand away and he puts it back on, and absolutely not. So Luke alpha males out like some sort of cowboy vigilante, stomps over, gets into a bar fight with him before ejecting him from the bar. Bangs on chest. I'm appalled. He notices that Emmy is glaring at him, displeased with that whole freaking Neanderthal display. But instead of just doing something normal like talking about it or apologizing, he throws her over his shoulder like a sack of taters.
What's taters? Potatoes.
And takes her to the back room. Teddy all the while rooting for them. Woo! Yes, girl, get it. Oh, yeah. Like, are we not concerned? Like, that's a little bit of a violent display that was not necessary. We haven't even established what this is. And you come over, you get physically violent with a patron in your bar for touching this girl that you've banged one time. Well, a couple times, one night. And she is now mad at you, and you can see that. But instead of just... I hate it, but once again, I'm the only one. Emmy is admittedly not super thrilled, but upon settling her back into the office or back room or wherever he took her, she scolds him just a little bit. And then he starts touching and kissing on her, distracting her from her very rightfully felt anger at the Neanderthal display and causing her to breathily say bangers like this. Hitting people is bad. And then he says, you want to know what's bad? You bringing this bare pussy into my bar like a perfect little slut. Yeah, she had wandered over to him behind the bar at some point and asked him to take a shot with her. You know, flirting. And so he did, and now she is, quote, dripping for me, sugar. Oh yeah, he calls her sugar, and I hate it. It's somehow a mix between Dr. Phil for some reason and sugar. So that's not working for me, sugar, but carry on. So upon finding her faucet situation, he's like, is that why you wanted to take a shot with me? To get me to pay some attention to this needy cunt? Ah. And she responds with, I was thirsty. So then he grabs a bottle of whiskey, takes a chug, and spits it into her open mouth. Hot. Usually it is. Usually that's something that I appreciate and enjoy. However, not now because... But whatever, they're hot for each other. She drops to her knees. And it's so good that he says, I want the image of her on her knees with her red lips wrapped around my cock projected on my headstone. Why? Why though? Why would you want that? Because you're dead if you have a headstone. So you can't see it. This stands to make only everyone else in the cemetery uncomfortable. Hello from the void. I am editing right now, and I got to this part, and I was like, you know what? Let me check. Let me just check the quotes that I can find and make sure that it wasn't headboard that he wanted it on, because that might make a little more sense. I mean, that is like where you mix it up anyway. And I went back and I checked, and it's headstone. I can't help you here, buddy. I don't want to see that on someone else's headstone. I mean, it would definitely be a head scratcher. I'd be like, what's this about? And is that all that you want on the headstone? Like, do you want your name, birth, death date, beloved friend, something? I'm not going to say that it wouldn't be an eye-catching display, but again, why would you want that on your tombstone? You're dead. Anyway, they bang on his desk. He's way too close too fast, so he starts thinking about a broken refrigerator to calm himself down and chill out. Get it? Chill, fridge. Yeah, no. They're really chatty for all of these exchanges, and I am not loving it. Again, usually I do, but it has to be like, I have to be enjoying it first before you start yapping in the middle of coital. What am I saying? They're finished. It was phenomenal. He cleans them both up. They hold each other after, and she says those words that every cowboy wants to hear. I'm in like with you. You're 27. Grow up.
I wolf you.
And she isn't sure when she wants to tell her family, but neither of them are interested in sneaking around and keeping things from them. Plus, he knows, and he tells us, that he's falling in love with her. And they both want this, so who knows? All right, rapid fire. She heads into town the next couple days with her dad, who is worried about her. She says she doesn't want to go back to Denver. He asks and offers her a job to help out at the ranch teaching writing lessons. And she's like, doesn't Luke do that? She never calls Luke by his first name. So her dad's like, what? Yeah, he usually does, but we could always use some help. He's doing so many things. He's teaching writing lessons and running a bar. Anyway, Dad kind of knows what's going on. Dads always know, you know. I mean, I wouldn't know that, but I'm told that dads that like their children and stick around know. They stop by a Tractor Supply store, and then she over-explains to me that a Tractor Supply store is actually not just for tractors. There's more stuff in there. Most people don't know that. While I believe you, I'm not one of them, and just hush, leave me alone. While she's out, she runs into someone else in the town that she knows because it's small and she knows everyone. He asks her out. She politely declines. Her and her dad go across the street to the coffee shop, and they start to reminisce about her mother and how the coffee shop used to be a diner, and the dad met her mom at that diner, and the mom was so everything. And, you know, her mom actually died tragically when she was a kid by falling off of a horse and hitting her head on a rock just right, which would make sense why her getting bucked off of a horse would be so traumatic for her. Sadly, as a result of her dying so soon, Emmy never got to know her mother, and this makes her realize how much time has passed and how much she's thankful and happy to be back home. Not just because of Luke, but because time passes and people age, and this is her family, and this is who she cares about, and she's happy to be back. And I'm happy for her. She starts spending more time with Luke at his house so that nobody will see his car parked on their ranch and be like, what's he doing here? I'm pretty sure everybody already kind of knows, or at least suspects. It's a small town. Everybody knows everything about everybody. So they're having sex. They're falling in like. They're working together in the stables. It's super fun, I guess. They go for a ride. Oh, on a horse, not in a truck or a tractor, sorry. And he has set up some sort of regulation barrels course for her so that she can practice getting back into what she loves. And it is a very sweet gesture. You race around the barrels and try to get back to the starting point in the quickest time without having any issues or knocking the barrels over or anything like that. Anyway, she's touched at this gesture. No one's ever done this for her before, but she hasn't ridden on a course in months, and she does start to have another little bit of moment of panic. He's supportive. He's right there with her. He tells her that he will help her do this, and he knows that she can, and she's like, why? And he's like, because you're Clementine Ryder, you deserve to go out on your own terms. Just because you got dusted doesn't mean you're done. He said the thing out of order, but it's a thing. And he said it. Apparently dusted means to be thrown off of your horse. So that makes sense. Yeah, I love it. You know, all of that working together. They still aren't telling people, which is weird to me because they just both agreed that they don't want to sneak around, and they seem pretty close to these people, so you would think that they would do it, but whatever. Then, while they're having a moment out at the stables or whatever, his mom calls. They're estranged, so it's weird that she's calling. And apparently she is frantic and upset because her husband, not his dad, is a truck driver and he hasn't been home in a couple of days.
Dad's on a hunting trip, and he hasn't been home in a few days.
So she goes with him to his mom's, and he's like, you don't have to come in with me. And she's like, I'm coming in. It's giving.
I asked you to stay in the car, would you? Of course not.
Anyway, of all the people in his family that he's estranged from, he still has that tender spot for his mom. It's his mom, I get it. So the house is a wreck, beer cans everywhere, and the mother, Lydia, is rude as to Emmy because apparently the writers have already taken so much from her, but they literally didn't. It's just that her son, who was clearly neglected in some sort of a way, would have preferred to be over there with the nice, warm, inviting family and not here. Whatever. Luke stands up and is like, you can't talk to my girl like that. If you do, we'll leave. And Emmy's like, my girl. Yeah, we know. They keep chatting a little bit, catching up. She gives him a bunch of old photos of him. They reminisce. His half-brother, JJ, is a mega douche, shows up and says some rude things to Emmy. Luke stands up for her again, but Emmy can hold her own and threatens JJ to tell the sheriff that he's dealing a little bit more than weed these days. And then when they leave, they kiss by the car because no one's ever stood up for me before. It's all just, did you see what I mean? Like, this is all like pretty substantial stuff, but it's just blown right by. It's very fast, which leaves me to feel like the story is flat. It is cute, it's fine, but I guess it's just not for me, and that's really what this review is about. So anyway, we fast forward a little while. She's getting ready for her first race, and she is nervous. Teddy is pinning her number onto her shirt for her, and then she notices that she's like kind of freaking out. So Emmy asks her to go and get Luke. She kind of spills to Teddy about everything, the reason that she came home, what happened, how she's suffering from the aftershocks of the whole thing. Then Luke shows up, he calms her down, said he's proud of her whether she does this race or not. And he and Teddy watch her walk into her position. She's feeling brave, so she's gonna do it. And Teddy's like, she's in love with you, you know? And he's like, I'm in love with her. Like, you know, kind of thing. He heads to the stands to sit with everyone and watch as Emmy does her first race back in her hometown. She nails it. Of course she does, breaking her own record that she set so long ago. They all go to greet her after she's done, and she starts running right over to them. Not them, no. Right into Luke's arms. Just throws herself right in, they kiss. And she is now firmly in love, having graduated from being in like. But what's this? She's kissing him in front of everybody, and this is not sitting right with BFF Gus, aka her brother, who is apparently the only one on the planet and in this small town that didn't know they were doing stuff together. Teddy and her dad are like beaming at this whole thing, but Gus is mad. Gus is like, what the is this? And Dad's like, calm down, dude. And Gus punches Luke and says all these really hurtful things about him. They separate Gus, calm him down, and Emmy leaves with Teddy. They take a few days staying apart from one another to kind of give Gus some breathing room and some time to kind of roll this around and come to accept it in some sort of a way. Gus goes by to see Luke. He shows up and apologizes for punching him. They kind of discuss everything over coffee. Luke spills about Emmy and their connection and how he's in love with her, but he was following her lead on not telling folks because she wasn't comfortable with it. And so Gus is like, I am not okay with this, but I could be one day. So go get her. So Luke does just that. He finds her, rides up to her on horseback because of course he does. He rode through the roughest parts of the ranch bareback just to get to her. Sounds horrible. They run to each other. They embrace. He confesses that he's in love with her. They kiss. She says she's in love with him too and falls into his arms once more. Home sweet home. There is an epilogue, but it's just them kind of settling into their relationship, banging another time or two. And he does, at this point in the epilogue, say, ride me, sugar. And I'm shocked it took this long for him to say that. You know, she is a professional horseback rider. Her last name is also Ryder. And it's just, I kind of respect it that you made me wait to get the obvious pun that's been here the whole time. Good for you. Good job, Lila. He gives her a key to his house. She's thrilled. They're in love. Hurrah! The end. All right, so that's about the size of it. My first journey into a Western romance. It wasn't terrible. It really wasn't. It was, like I said, very popcorn of a book. Like, you could just binge it. You don't even know you ate the whole bag and now it's over kind of thing. There wasn't a lot of substance to it, but once again, it's popcorn. So there were some attempts at some substance, like with the PTSD and the ADHD and her mom dying when she was young, his mom, and a whole family being estranged and him having like a second family in her family. All that stuff is pretty big stuff, but it was mostly just like breezed by or glossed over. I didn't dislike any of the characters, but I also didn't love any of them either. Like, Emmy's pretty cool. I love that her name is Clementine, but you know, she was just fine. Luke was also fine, if not a little bit of a red flag with the violent Neanderthal display of ownership and possessiveness at the bar where he punched the guy for simply touching Emmy. I think Emmy growing up on a farm with a bunch of brothers would lead her to be able to handle and take care of herself. So it's just a little strange, and then also just completely disregarding that she was not very happy about the way he acted in that whole situation and just started her down to make her feel better. That's a little weird. We see that a lot in some of the books that we read on this channel. Just would have liked a little bit more self-awareness, because on one hand, you're trying to tell me that this man is very in tune with your needs and your like micro expressions, so he knows when you're about to have a panic attack and he can calm you down and he makes you feel safe. And then he punches someone in the face at his place of business because they touched you, and then completely disregards that you didn't like him doing that. So, you know, I mean, I'm not saying he's like an insane person, but he's got some toxic traits that we might not love to see right at the beginning of a not even at that point relationship. So, you know, I liked her family. They seemed very involved. So that's about it. I don't really have very many other thoughts. I think it's worth a shot if you're looking to try something new and kind of venture out into this weird subgenre of Westerns. I felt the same way when I ventured into the sci-fi alien genre of romance when I read Ice Planet Barbarians, which I am commissioned to read and review in the future. And so if that sounds like something that interests you, make sure you like this video and subscribe so you don't miss anything. I do want to take a second to speak to you if you're on my Bindery or my Patreon and you've commissioned a review from me. I want you to know that I am prioritizing getting all of those done as quickly as possible. They are now my main focus. I don't have anything that I'm supposed to be reading right now. So I'm going to channel all of my energy into making a dent in all those commissions you've gracefully given me. I'm so thankful for some of them. Others I'm a little wary, but whatever. I'm here and I'm doing it for you, and I love you. You don't have to say it back. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you sitting through this with me. Roll that beautiful beans footage.
Oh my goodness. You doing, baby? Oh my goodness.